Good day, everybody. My name is Trevor Stevens. I am the host for Straight BTE, where we get straight to the facts of life and how you actually deal with living holy. I wanted to do a topic that I thought was relevant for where we are right now as a people, and something that we normally don't talk about as much, especially like younger guys that are under like 50. You just don't get a chance to hear guys talk about this. So we're going to talk about Black fatherhood and the challenges and triumphs of Black fatherhood. And I have with me two wonderful brothers. I've known them since they were, Lord, teenagers. Had to process them. Yeah, like it's been since teenagers, man. Wow. I have Jonathan McFadden. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. And I got I was gonna say your whole name, Latrell Wigfall. I ain't want to put you out there like that, but we got Latrell Wigfall with us. How you doing, bro?
I'm good. Highly blessed and favored.
Wonderful. So we're gonna get into this topic, and I wanted to we're gonna open with prayer in a moment, but I wanted to get into like the groove of you guys both have children. I have a 7-year-old, almost 8-year-old son. Trail got a son that's about to be 7, right? And make sure you got a daughter. Lord have mercy. What she want, 5? Am I
3.
tripping? 3. See, I'm tripping. See, I don't put extra years on her.
Yeah, don't do that to me yet. Don't do that yet.
And Jonathan, your baby is a baby still. So
baby.
She's still a baby, man. She's still smiling at everybody. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Months. She's entering her toddler era.
Yeah.
So we fun begins.
Absolutely, man. Like, the personality start popping out. We're gonna talk about that in a moment. So let's open up in prayer, and then we'll go into a quick icebreaker video, and then we'll jump into the topic. So, Father God, we thank you for this night. We thank you for this time that we have to speak about fatherhood, which you are our Father. You know all about this, and we wanted to express our thanks to you for being our Father and for taking care of us and for showing us the way and for guiding us to the right people and to the right moments, and even caring about small things that we normally think that nobody else really sees. You see. We're very thankful to be able to speak on this particular topic about fatherhood, especially in the diaspora, the Black diaspora, and how it actually affects the way that we've changed, the way that we perceive life, the way that we perceive you. So help us, guide us in this conversation tonight as we go forward in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So I'm hoping this video just does what it's supposed to do.
Only masculine, your identity is in doing. Yeah. You're not a human being when you're only.
All right, so we're going to start this over. So this is Jason Wilson. He's a phenomenal brother. I read both of his, most of his books, but the two most recent, The Man, the Moment Demands. I recommend that book to every man. It's a very good book. It has a workbook, with it that you can work through and take your time in it. But this is him talking about struggling as a man. So I wanted to play this so I can get you guys' reaction, and we'll jump into
when
the
you're
questions.
Only masculine, your identity is in doing. You're not a human being, you're a human doing. I got to keep moving. I got to keep working. I got to keep grinding. When you look at the word grinding, we know as men of God that words are powerful. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. The word grinding means to wear down, to crush, to oppress. You yell grinding in a machinery shop, they're hitting stop, boom, stop. Something's wrong. Because when you're grinding, you're wearing down. That's why the majority of people who say they grind look wore out.
Yeah.
Men are tired of suffering in silence. We see now, like, wait a minute, there's more to life than just doing.
Right.
But until you have enough courage to be authentic and really allow like Christ to live through you, you'll never really fulfill what you're called to.
So he, once again, he always getting your feelings, man. He gets in your feelings. So how your brothers feel about that?
Cry Like a Man was transformative when I read it. And Jason Wilson, I'm waiting for him to start a church. No, I'm playing. Anticipated. I can see it.
The cave of dwelling is his church.
Amen. Amen. And so in response to that particular clip, yeah, I think that is a really powerful message and an important message that we have to send, because grinding, hustle, doing, going, that is, those are the messages du jour of the day. Like those are the things, that's what men are wired and expected to do. Like that's how we're expected to exist in the world. And it is, in my opinion, and I'm sure Jason would probably agree with this, that is completely antithetical to what God has called us to do. Rest is a very, very important part of being a human.
Yeah.
If the Lord rested, surely, surely we can too. We need to. But that's not, I don't think that's really instinctual for a lot of us. It's instinctual to always do, to always perform. Especially in our Western society, we're very performative and performance oriented, and men are renowned and exalted for their ability to perform, whether it is in terms of providing for your family, whether it is at work, whether it's sexually, whatever. Performance is the expectation that is placed upon our shoulders, and a lot of us, I think, struggle to decouple our identity from that. If I'm not doing something, who am I?
Yeah.
My dad is undergoing this now in his retirement. He doesn't know how to not work. And so much so, in fact, he has gone back to his job part-time because he's not in touch with who he is outside of working.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of other factors that go along with that, but it just goes to show, I think, that, yeah, it's so innate. It's been like, we've been indoctrinated with this idea that we always have to do that. For so many people, they don't know who they are outside of it.
That's good.
Yeah, I think Jonathan nailed that. I agree 100%. So yeah, it's even from, back in the day, that's all you see. A lot of times, women would stay with men as long as they were providing money to the household, even though they know that they were out there doing dirt. And I think it dates back to that. And now today, like Jonathan said, it's all about hustle culture. Like how many streams of income can you get? And while that can be good, like Jonathan said, rest is so important. And even though I'm a self-proclaimed Nighthawk, I do find my time for rest when I can. Maybe, I'm off this day and the kids are gone and my wife is gone and I might rest then. But I do find my time for rest. Even if you're not hot like me, like you need to find that time to rest and to recharge, because it's important. And like Jonathan pointed out, like God rested, like that should serve as a great example of, hey, maybe you should rest too.
Absolutely.
Maybe you don't need to work a 9 to 5 and then right after every single day go do your second, third, fourth hustle. You got to find time to rest, especially as a man. I agree 100% and love that clip. I'm gonna have to check out his book because I haven't. I've seen it before.
It's well worth it.
Well
worth the time. Well worth it. I mean, he has Battle Cry, phenomenal book. Cry Like a Man was the first book that he put out. And the last one is the Man the Moment Demands.
Okay.
All of the books are phenomenal. Because like the Lord has blessed him with such suffering to understand men. That he was pretty much freed from the indoctrination. Like that's and it's something that, we all are nerds here. So we think about the Matrix, like you remember the scene when Morpheus was walking Neo through the streets and he was explaining to him everything that you see is a lie. All these people are living lies. Every single thing you see here, this person could be your enemy. You don't even know it. And then he sees the lady in a red dress and he does a quick distraction, turns back around to the barrel of a gun by Smith. And he's like, yo, if you ain't with us, you with them. And I think about that sometimes when it comes to, what like pretty much what he was saying about being a man. Sometimes we get to the point where we tell ourselves that we are our own enemy because we don't follow the indoctrination that has been put in us to deal with life. Like women have been indoctrinated to think about men a particular way through everything. Men have been indoctrinated by that same thing, and we're fighting this every day, to try and find. Then you also add in race issues and class issues and things of that nature, and you feel it, you know. So yeah, so it's pertinent that we do our best to try and live as God intended us to live, and to do it well, you know, and find true meaning rather than, if I'm not working, I'm not a man. But
Right.
that's something I heard even from my own mama, you know, and I love my mama. But that was, if I was sleeping on a Saturday, you gotta get up, you know. And I was like, you gotta go outside and do something, you know. So it was a thing that was just built into the culture, you know. And I don't even think that has a race attached to it. I think that's everybody that has to deal with that. So yeah, so we're gonna jump into the first question, which kind of glides right into this, because, you know, I think we do need to process, you know, fatherhood. And we'll start with this question about how has fatherhood changed how you identify yourself on a day-to-day basis? Because this is a massive change. I think before Latrell, I don't know if you remember this, before Nolan was born, I told you that you had to be in there, you had to see him come out. Remember I told you that?
Yeah.
All right. So I told him, I said, do not leave that room. I was like, do not leave. And just to make you laugh, Jay, Jonathan, I flat out fainted in the I did. I fainted, bro. I'm just gonna keep it a stab. See, that said, this is why this is dope. I was holding. I said, I need to tell him this so I can be fresh. So you're like, Trevor fainted? Yes.
That is shocking. I have to say
Bro,
that's surprising.
I fainted, bro. I was holding her leg, and I was like, yo, what the world happened? You know? And I was like, next minute, I was gone. I was like, yo, let's go. And I was like, and the nurse is like tapping me on my chest, like, wait.
Oh my God.
You know, so I'm like, yo, what the world? You know, I shook it off. You know what I'm saying? I shook it off and got back in the game. But I was like, yo, I fainted. I'm not even gonna say.
I appreciate your vulnerability.
You know, I laugh at it now, man. I mean, I was like, I didn't tell nobody about this, but I was, I laughed. It was that moment changed me. You know, you were in the operating room with Vaughn, right? You in there?
I was. So she had a C-section. So,
yeah. So you got to see out. You got to see it all.
Yeah, I mean, most of it. There's a curtain, but
yeah. They do that for us.
So yeah, I was spared some of it, but I will say I didn't faint. But the second or third day, when we were still right as we were preparing to leave the hospital, I had been so severely dehydrated.
Oh wow!
I puked. Yeah, and I think honestly, I think that goes to a little bit of what Jason Wilson was talking about, because it was such a, I guess I'll go ahead and answer the question.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Like a seismic shift in how I perceive myself. And, you know, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure Yvonne's okay. I have to make sure Mike is okay. Like, and I mean, as y'all know, like when you have a newborn, your entire circadian rhythm is jacked up.
Yeah.
Okay. You are not sleeping.
Yeah.
Micah had to eat every 3 hours. I was trying to be as supportive and on hand as possible. So when Yvonne was up, I was up. When the baby was up, I was up.
Yeah.
And they're coming in the room constantly. So there is no rest.
No.
I was never drinking water. Eating. So I was just doing. I was just doing. And so by the third day, my body's like, you're done. I retched.
Wow.
Right there, as the lactation specialist was given like our discharge instructions to the mom.
Not while the lactation specialist.
Yeah, it wasn't just us. The woman was in the room talking to us, and I'm like, I have to go. Oh, no. I zipped into the bathroom and
wow. Yo, look.
It was bad. And my head was throbbing. I was
man.
ill. It was awful.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm like, dang, the third day of my baby's life. Pushed over a toilet. But I will say from that point on,
Yo.
I realized like, okay, Jonathan, get back on your water game. One, but two, also try to relax as much as possible. And I mean, there is very little relaxation happening
Yeah.
at any point.
Yeah.
But I think, becoming a father has been probably the most transformative, almost as transformative as becoming a husband, moment of my life, because now everything, and I mean everything, is really filtered through the lens of how will this affect my daughter? How will this affect my wife? How is this going to affect our day? If Micah doesn't get a nap, how is that going to affect her long term and us short term? Like every decision, every consideration, it all is going through that framework. And so there's not a single choice I make in which I'm not thinking about that little girl.
Yeah.
And it is at equal parts overwhelming sometimes, but also beautiful, because I feel like I have developed a level of understanding about my own resilience and grit that I just could never have tapped into before fatherhood. It was impossible. I remember even when Yvonne got pregnant and, time is going on, we're preparing for Micah's arrival, the thought of like, okay, these first few months, we're not going to sleep a lot. I value sleep. Like y'all know.
Yes, he does.
I value it a lot. I'm in bed by 9:30 a lot of the time. So the idea of not being able to do that for me, that was a big thing. A really big thing. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to survive if I don't get my 8 hours.
Yeah.
I get my 8 hours. Nowadays I don't. I get about 6. I average about 6. And it was hard, but it just amazed me how I was able to do it. Like, we survived. We made it. And at one point I couldn't conceive of doing that.
Yeah.
You are able to, the Lord has, I think, imparted in parents just some level of resilience that gets unlocked that you just don't know about. It's dormant in you until you need it. And you're able to draw upon it. And we were able to draw upon it, and we needed to, because so yeah, I think it's changed everything about me. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that was really good. To answer the question, I think as soon as I wake up in the morning, before at one time it was just me, and as I said, I'm a Nighthawk. I was always the one that's like, okay, how much time can I squeeze into like sleeping in just a little bit longer? Usually arriving late to everything. Guess I got that honest from my mother or something. I don't know. My grandparents too, honestly. But that had to change, once I got married, because it wasn't just me that I was concerned about. I had to make sure that my wife was good. And then when my kid came, double down, like, I got to get my kid to daycare at this time, or I have to get my kid to school at this time. My kid is one that wants sunny side up eggs most mornings, so he doesn't want to eat breakfast at school, and there's nothing wrong with that. So my wife and I are like, let's, if that's what he wants, that's not a problem. We just have to wake up a little earlier, and make it happen for him. And then Elena came, and that was another seismic shift to have a second child, and managing the idea of, okay, I have to make sure that Nolan feels valued and everything, despite the fact that in his brain he's like, this kid is getting so much attention now and I'm not getting as much attention, and making sure that he understands, hey, it's because she's younger, it's because she needs more and all that stuff, and empower him saying that, hey, now that you're this age, we trust you more. We know that you understand these things and all of that, and just trying to use that as a moment to try to empower him, and not just say, oh yeah, she's younger than you, so you just have to stay in the corner, you just have to wait, whatever. But just use it as, I think that's the important thing as a father, is to use those opportunities where it might be easy just to be like, you just have to deal with it, but use it as an opportunity to empower and to teach. That, even showing him that, you're the older sibling. You have to be careful with that too, because that responsibility, putting too much responsibility on a almost 7-year-old, you got to be careful of that too. But yeah, to go back to the question, like, yeah, every day I have to think about, like Jonathan said, like, how does my decision now affect later? Elena not getting a nap on a Saturday and Sunday when she's not at school where naps are mandatory. Even jobs, honestly, I haven't had a straight 9 to 5 since September of last year, and that was something else for me, because at that time I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not, kind of going back to some of the things that we talked about a little earlier, that I'm not doing my due diligence as a husband, as a father, and all of those things, and I kind of set into a role of, okay, now I have to cook more. I'm cooking more. Doing laundry more. I'm doing these things and all that stuff, and I did some freelance work as well, but it wasn't steady. And just still dealing with the fact that, hey, you're still a father, you're still a husband, you still have to provide for your family. It's not just monetary, it's emotional, it's development. How do you teach your children and how they develop, teaching them how to pray, teaching them scriptures, making sure you're going to a church, and make sure you have a community that's going to also help impact that as well. Like, literally every decision. Before, I could just choose any church I want to, right? But now I have to think, okay, well, how is the children ministry there? How, all these different factors, and what school do they go to? At Rock Hill, we have kind of the liberty of choosing, like, which public school our child can go to, which is kind of a blessing.
I didn't know
that. So Nolan goes to a public school where he's learning French. But then there's also a STEM focused school that I'm actually considering for him, because he's all about science and technology and stuff like that. He just loves that stuff. So I think we're going to maybe get into that later, just knowing the child's personality and be able to fit that. But again, back to this question, every decision has to be made through the lens of life and then children. It's something else. But like Jonathan said, I think the thing that you learn most out of this is that how resilient you can be on relying on the strength of God only, because it was really him only that allowed me to get as far as I've gotten. Even though I was a Nighthawk, and like I was, I didn't have a problem staying up late and all that stuff. It still was a struggle, and dealing with the fact that, oh my God, now my kid is, I don't know, something's wrong with him. He won't stop crying. I don't know why. He won't go to sleep. Why? We're done with the infant phase, but he's still waking up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, not going to sleep. Oh yeah, maybe he's like his dad.
Man.
Thank God my daughter's a little bit better about sleep than Nolan was. And now Nolan is a lot better about that.
Good.
But yeah.
You're a break, bro. You're a break, right? I feel you. Yeah, like I can definitely agree with both of you. I remember when we realized that, that Brandon was pregnant, and how that changed, I was like, okay, now I got to think about her safety. It just changed to, like, different environment, make sure her environments were stable and things of that nature, make sure she wasn't at high stress. And, which is a whole nother thing, like that's I didn't want to really jump into wives as much in this because that deserves its own space. And that's not once again, that it's because the process of you, really owning up to the fact that you have to help, and she's also has to help you, and you allowing her to help you. That's a whole.
Yeah, that's a good topic.
We're not getting into that today. But just, and then when I was in the room and fainted, got back up though. You know what I'm saying? If I'm a wrestling fan, so I kicked out at 2. So I got back up. All right. So I got back up, and I got to see my son born and brought into the world. And it was like a light switch turned on the moment I saw him. And I was like, before it was all speculation, you know, for her it's very real because she literally feels him every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she like this boy is living inside me. I can literally feel him kicking, poking, all the stuff, you know. For me, I'm like, hey, it's a little kid in there. You know, like, even though it's like I'm still daddy, I was like, yeah, you know, it's my kid, you know. But guys are very visual.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I told you that, Trey. I was like, do not leave the operating room because visually, can I ask you a quick, both of you brothers, question? Is it burned in your brain how your child came into the world?
Yes.
Like the moment that they came.
Oh, I remember
Like,
it very clearly. Yeah.
It's very strange. I mean, I can totally recall the whole moment.
Yeah.
The smell of the room, the lights, the fixtures. I remember everything in that one moment. And that's why I was like, whenever I hear that, you know, folks, I'm like, hey, bro, don't leave the operator. You need to stay in there with her. Even if it look crazy, you need to stay.
Yeah.
You need your brain will literally photocopy this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that changed my whole life. And I said, so I agree with both of you. I was like looking at this kid, you know, 6 pounds, you know, and I'm like, who are you? You know, like really like, you know, like who is this kid? And the thing that blew my mind when he was born was that he cried uncontrollably. And the doctors were trying to calm him down, and he was like in a rage cry. He was like, I don't want none. What is happening? What's going on? That when Brandon was pregnant, I used to talk to him while, you know, I would just lay my head on her stomach and like, this is your father, and just talk to him. And I said, hey, son, and he stopped crying. And I was like, oh snap, you know, like it really hit different, you know, like when that happened, I was like, this is literally my child, you know, like you already know it, but it's just the man brain of it coming back into you, like, this is my child. And yeah, like sleep patterns, they were dead for like 8 months.
Right.
Yeah, I have a son that broke out the swaddle the first day.
Dang.
Yeah, like we got no breaks, bro. I mean, it was, I literally heard and I just see a fist in the air, like he a Black Panther, you know. I'm like, what is this? And it's like the first day, I'm like, bro, we just got you home. What the world are we doing? And we tried the heavy duty one. It didn't work. I was like, oh my God, we in for a ride. He also had a habit of like wanting to sleep on his side to his stomach. So we had, it was off the chain. Then he didn't want to crawl. He literally just chose to walk instead of crawl. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, like a lot of stuff just changed around me, and like the responsibilities, the duties, the ideas, you know, to keep him engaged and maintain, also make sure your wife is well. You know, 'cause postpartum depression, that's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? Their hormones go crazy. They're like at like 10 times the levels. And a lot of men don't talk about this because a lot of men don't know about like postpartum, like how you need to take care of your wife and how you need to help her, you know, process that she's still beautiful, you know, and you know, in the midst of this, and like that, you know, the depression, it hits. I mean, I've seen it. You know, I'm thankful that, you know, in my case, you know, Brandy was fine. We had a couple of moments, but she was fine. But you know, that's not everybody's tale.
Right.
So the day-to-day basis, you know, was like it was keeping an eye on her, and also keeping an eye on him because he was trying to commando stuff. So you know, so yeah, but it took a lot of time, changed the way I sleep. I'm still jacked up. He's 8 years old, and my brain is still, well, he's 7, he'll be 8 very soon. But my brain is not even functioning the same way it used to at, like, you know, when he was just brought into the world. So I mean, yeah, it changed.
It's the chemistry of your brain, and it's a level of hypervigilance that I don't think you ever recover from.
Yeah,
I don't. I don't think I'll ever sleep the same again. Like
I mean, I feel like Squidward sometimes. You know that meme where his eyes is closed. It's like glass breaking, and he opened up.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had one cough, and he's like,
"Yep." Yes.
You know, you looking around like,
is the baby okay? Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's it changed everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this will lead into the second question because once again, we all deal with this, and I think specifically for guys that are like we all are very individualistic. Before we were married, strong personality, one of the things done a particular way, didn't want to really venture out and do things a certain way. In the relationships because of that. I think all three of us have done that. It's like you need to go away. Because you're asking for stuff that I'm just not gonna give you. I mean, it's just like I can't satisfy you, so please leave. You know what I'm saying? So being guys like that, and then having a wife, and then having a child. This one, is how do you maintain your identity and sense of self on why you serve your family? Because like this is as much as lovely as it is to serve your family. You can get lost
Oh yeah.
in the serving. So talk to me.
Trell, you go.
I think for me, when I saw this question, I was like, it's probably unhealthy, but I was like, the way I maintain it is by losing it. Legit losing it and then kind of crashing out and being like, oh shoot, I want to get back to me.
Yo.
Wow, I love it.
Man, so he crashed out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's it was a time. It's crazy because like in my house sometimes I literally will have all three, like Elena saying, "Daddy, I need this," and then like while she's saying that, Nolan will overlap with, "Daddy, can you come here?" And then Breland was like, "Trell," like it's. I'm telling you, those times are so overwhelming. And I know that Breland deals with that too.
Yeah.
As a mother, but man, I don't know if it just became more apparent with the unemployment for me or whatever, but man, it was heavy. And I kind of had to crash out, like I said, and then be like, hold on, and I kept hearing God saying like, you kind of got to get back to yourself, like get back to you, and the things that make you happy. And I'm still navigating that, trying to figure that out and all of that. But just getting back to the things that I think God has purposed for me.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to have a wife that understands that and I think respects that. But you kind of have to take the lead on that though, and then allow your spouse to support that. And even teaching my children that sometimes, like I want to go somewhere or do something, and of course Nolan doesn't want me to leave. What's up, kitten? But yeah, Nolan doesn't want me to leave or whatever, and I have to explain to him that even now, even though he may not fully understand, I explain to him that you have to take time for yourself, and this is me taking some time for myself, so that I can be a better father to you, a better husband to your mom, a better father to Elena. I got to take time for me sometimes. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely piggyback off that and plus one it and all the cosign and all the things. I think, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. I have the youngest child here, so I'm newest in the journey, but I realized pretty early. In fact, I called Kenton, I think maybe almost 2 months into Micah's life, and I'm like, I'm struggling because who am I? Who is Jonathan? Where is Jonathan? I can. Then Barry might a few months later call Trevor about the same. I talked to Latrell about it too. That's probably been all around.
Remind me, where am I?
Yeah, because you find, I think, to like what Latrell is saying, it becomes so natural for you to fall back. As a father and husband, it just happens. It doesn't have to be an intentional choice on your part. I don't think it has to be an intentional choice on your spouse's part. It just is what it is because of the role that you play in your family structure. As the man, as the husband, as a provider, you fall back.
Yeah.
Because you are in the role of perpetual sacrifice. That is who you are. And we'll get to that when we talk about a little bit more about the Lord. But that is the part you play. And so it's instantaneous a lot of the time. And so what I found was that like I had a fairly generous parental leave, which I'm very grateful for. But at the same time, Yvonne was in school full time. And so 2 weeks after giving birth, she's back at school and she's trying to finish the semester. Yeah. So there was that balance. Like we were trying to establish a balance. We were trying, I'm trying to relieve pressure off of her so that she can do what she has to do to finish the semester strong, which means that I absorbed a lot of the like early, like figuring this thing out kind of responsibility. And so there were moments where it absolutely felt overwhelming and all consuming because it's like all I do all day is feed a baby, change a baby, wash a baby, feed a baby, change a baby, wash a baby over and over and over, a constant cycle. And then at 6 p.m., Micah, we called it her golden hour. Some people call it the witching hour. We don't call it the witching hour because, of course, we don't speak demonic things over our child. Yeah. But like 6 o'clock from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. every single night for about 60 days, because we counted about 60 something days, Micah would be inconsolable. She would cry, she would scream, she would fuss. Nothing we would do would help. It was part of her development. So 6 p.m. comes, I'm like, I've spent the entire day doing all of this. I'm exhausted. 6 p.m. comes, and now the baby is just going ham. It's like, nothing we can do about it. Like all we could do to calm her down was to walk with her. Like that's the only thing that would calm her down temporarily. It was either walking or sitting in a dark room and rocking. And I tell y'all, there were nights where I literally thought I was going insane. in the dark. And you kind of think about what your life was like before. Not that you regret this or nothing like that, but it's like, wow.
Yeah.
I used to watch anime around this time.
This is my time.
At this time, or man, I used to have a freelance project going or something.
Right.
Like, things have changed, and so I remember all that to say is, I think it's for us, it's been really key to be very, very communicative with each other, Yvonne and I, and be honest about what we're feeling, because she has had the exact same experience. You absolutely can get absorbed into all of it, and your entire identity suddenly becomes being a parent.
Yeah,
which isn't bad. I'm not going to poo-poo that, but it's not comprehensive either, because that's not all of who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I remember one time we were driving back home from Georgetown, and we both just kind of in the car, we're like, I don't know who I am anymore. You said it, I said it. And we're like, we have to help each other. And it's been tough in a lot of ways because time is so short. And we can't neglect our responsibility as parents. Like, we're not just going to be like, well, Micah, you're not getting changed today.
Like, right.
And we're going to jail. So, we can't do that. So we have to figure it out. And it's really negotiation, time negotiation.
Yeah.
Like, Yvonne is ministering tomorrow morning at a women's conference. When she comes home, we tag, I'm going to go and work on my book, and it's just like we swap. And that's what it has to be right now. It's not going to be a full day. That's just not the reality for us. She's not going to have a full day. I'm not going to have a full day where we're always parents. So, but it's just figuring out like, when are the pockets of time that I can have where I can kind of just sit down and not be needed. That's the thing. It's the always being needed part. And it's like, I really just need to be by myself for 5 minutes, please. Please, just give me 5 minutes. Let me take a 10-minute nap. I'll gladly wash dishes if I could just put them in and watch something on the streaming device.
That was my thing for a long time.
Yeah, cleaning the kitchen was ministry. I ain't gonna say it host because nobody else wanted to do it but me. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make this thing work.
Hey,
put a TV in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? Put a TV and a fire stick in the kitchen. I was like, yo,
I thought about doing that.
I ain't gonna say I did it, man. I was like, yo, I'm gonna put this bad boy up. I put it up, and bro was like, wait, we can watch it while we are family. That was not what it was for. It was for me when I was cleaning the kitchen. I was like, yo, let me put this bad boy in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? Just like she ain't really fight. You know what this sounds like? Yeah, she used it too. So I was like, okay, but I was like, yo, I'm in here. I need let me put on something, like and just get back in there. But then you still gotta keep the hand on the remote. Because you like, no, can't watch that, son. Like just
Yep.
so you like,
Yep.
so you're missing parts. You like gotta go backwards. So it made it more chat, but still, it still gave you that relief, to do something that like informed, who you actually were. But we got Kenton now with us too. What's up, brother?
Good evening, brothers. How you doing?
Doing all right, man. So you see the question?
I do not see the question.
Okay, so the question.
Oh, I'm on my phone. I can see.
Oh, are you good? Yeah.
I probably could have did it. I'm having internet issues, so my.
No, you fine. I mean, I can read it to you, brother. I mean, so we were talking about, how do you maintain your identity and sense of self while serving your family? So that's what we were like parsing out. While we serve as men and husbands and fathers, they both. I would agree with them. The moments where you just like, who the world am I?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Especially Jonathan, hearing you talk about the early years of rocking them to sleep. Carter wasn't horrible, but there were nights where we had to do the white noise machine and you had to do the rocking and you had to like drive in the car somewhere. So it's like sometimes, especially when you're already burning the wick at both ends and it's like you're running on fumes and your eyes are like what in the, like in the Twilight Zone. It's funny how sometimes you forget those things and maybe God intends for it to be that way.
Right? Because Jonathan brought back memories for me too when he was talking about the early times.
That's why I got 2 children each. That's why. That's exactly why. That's why each.
But yeah, I just think even the things like you all talked about getting pockets of sleep, I'm good about that, honestly. Even now, I tell my wife, I'm about to go lay down for 10 minutes because I really do well with power naps. Like I can literally take a 5-minute nap and I have like biggest burst of energy. So I know it doesn't work for some people.
I'm gonna be real with you. I wake up angry if I do something.
Sometimes
that's how breathing is.
But like literally a 5 or 10 minute nap. So sometimes I just need that just to get a recharge. So that's something that works for me. I believe, just keeping your talents and things and your ambitions, just keeping those in sight, even though you realize that you got to slow those down a little bit. Thanks. And so it's just finding a way to, and it's hard. Sometimes you have to be really intentional about making time. Like I don't practice the piano and stuff as much as I want to. And I want to even share that gift with them. But it's like kind of, you're trying to do this and you're being supportive. You're going, for me, I have an 11-year-old Carter. He's in soccer and then he got terrific kid. And so you're going here and you're trying to balance job, or for me, entrepreneurship and the ebbs and flows of that. And so it's like, you feel like you're trying to catch everything and be active and engaged. And I feel like who I am, I feel like I had lost my identity, but some things I've had to kind of put on hold. And then also I've had some things that I've had to work through so that I can be ready to, walk a little bit more into my identity of who I am, things that I haven't even yet realized.
Yeah.
This might be a little bit different, but sometimes when you are trying to do those things and there are agitations and there are little bits of turbulence and
that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, it's like that can be frustrating. And you just have to be careful because you don't want to be dismissive or you don't want to shun them or not give them the time and the attention that they need. And so I've realized that there have been times about myself where I know I've been short fused because I've been tired or I feel like I ain't had enough time to myself. And sometimes they've gotten the butt end of the stick. And sometimes I've had to go back and apologize. It's like, I was a little short. I wasn't patient. I really wasn't listening as good as I should have. So I think I've learned how to be okay with apologizing often and And I think that's a good thing that a father should do. Like when you know you made a mistake, like tell your son or your daughter, hey, I didn't handle that correctly, or I jumped the gun, or assume that I knew what you were talking about. Whatever the case is, I apologize. And thankfully, I think like most children are, because I think children naturally love their parents. Carter's, especially Carter, because he's, older and things like that. He's very forgiving. Oh, Dad, it's okay. I say, yeah, but I want to treat you well. So I think having those kind of conversations and helping them see young that even as a man, I can apologize to a child.
Absolutely.
Apologize to whoever I need to apologize to. So that's something that I've learned to do as I am growing and becoming, a better father, hopefully day by day. So
absolutely. I appreciate you bringing up the apology part, because Black men historically have been terrible at apologies.
Yeah.
And that's something, we got uncles, we got fathers, we got siblings, cousins, male men, and their apology.
Yeah.
That's weakness. And I remember
I'm the authority.
That's right. I'm the law. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, I don't need to apologize. I'm not wrong. It's your fault for feeling like that. That type of, perspective on how you deal with stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, and it's messed up, because I remember when I was a kid, older men like really saying something that they really had no business saying to me. That was like, well, you need to toughen up. And that was the only response they would give, is like, you just need to toughen up. And the fact that I'm 40 and I still remember it.
Yeah.
You feel me? You know what I'm saying? So I still remember every single word they said. And it wasn't because they apologized, because they didn't, but I remember my son, he came to me. I was having a bad day. He wanted to do something, man. He wanted to do something. It was so sweet, man. And I didn't yell, but I got a presence about me. I gave him a look, and it put a lot of fear in him. And I was like, and he just started shaking. And I was like, what did I just do? And I apologized to him, and I hugged him, and I was like, son, I'm sorry. And being, transparent like that with your son, and him understanding that that's not my heart. Like that's daddy just had a bad moment in his mind, and I'm sorry. I didn't touch him. It was just a look, and I was like, man, you have to catch yourself, like even when you're having your moment to just chill out, and they, run in. They're so excited to show you something that you most time don't even feel like looking at, you have to then drop their interest and give them that attention back, and be like, they're going to remember this for the rest of their life. This one little tiny moment. And if you do it wrong, my goodness, the consequences. You know what I'm saying? And keeping that, in there. So, and this once again ties into the next question, which is, what pressures do you experience now that normally wasn't an issue? So pretty much you had a regular life prior, even like just in marriage. You could think prior to that too, but things that were not an issue until the child came. And then now this particular thing is now an issue in your life. You're like, dang, I can't even do that. Or I can't, or this has got to be moved, things of that nature. So talk to me, what are some things that like were normally not things that cause pressure that now has changed because of the experience of being a father?
Well, before I had a baby, there was only one person's butt I had to wipe. Mine. Now I'm uncomfortable.
Yo,
you wait till she gets older.
Gosh. Not only for cleaning up after her, but keeping her alive. I mean, that is an overwhelming and awesome responsibility. Especially again, Micah is younger than all of your children. So still newish in this, but 17 months, almost 8, she's almost a year and a half now. And I just remember the feeling of gratitude that Yvonne and I both expressed when she turned a year. Because like, oh, wow, we kept her alive for a year. Like, that's incredible. And it really is, because I remember in those early days, especially, sleep really terrified me. SIDS terrified me.
Yeah.
I remember, like, there was one night, like, we early in Micah's infancy, maybe she was like 3 months. Yvonne wanted to try a bonnet, and I was already like, I don't know about this. And I woke up in the middle of the night. I probably, for Micah's feeding, the thing was over her face, and I'm like, we're not doing this ever.
No. Yeah.
Because Micah now is older enough where she can turn. She knows how to do things, and she wears the bonnet now. I mean, we're raising a Black girl. Bonnet's part of her life.
Unfortunately, it's a part of the uniform. You know,
it is.
It's like jogging pants and black man. You know.
Yeah. And so, you know, it took me a while to be comfortable with it, and it actually kind of raised some issues between Yvonne and I for a little bit. Because I was adamant. I'm like, I don't know that, because that freaked me out so bad that that memory is etched in my brain. I'm like,
yeah,
that's
oh man,
yeah,
exactly. That ain't even happened to me, but that
was scary.
I'm feeling that.
I would have burned every button in the house.
Right.
All these jobs got to go.
But yeah, I think that is a huge pressure. You know, I think about every time I get behind the wheel of the car, just how when I'm by myself, like I'm a very, very careful driver. But when I'm with Micah, I'm an anxious driver. I don't want to be, but it's just sometimes the worst just always crosses my mind. I have a tendency to catastrophize, and I have to constantly submit that to the Lord all the time. Yeah. And that has been a big change too. I have struggled with anxiety more in my life now than ever before. And it is because I have a daughter. On top of that, not just like road safety or sleep safety, I am raising a Black woman. And knowing that I am raising her in a world where little girls are endangered and are preyed upon, that is a pressure, because Yvonne and I are committed to raising her to be vigilant and safe, but we can't shelter her so much that she is insulated and unaware.
Absolutely.
There is going to come a day, God willing, where Micah will leave the nest and she will be out in the world by herself. And while, yes, she is just 1.5 years now, time moves so unrelentlessly quickly.
Absolutely.
She's going to be here. And that terrifies, I'll be honest, that I have to continually pray about that, because that terrifies me. I know if anybody touches her, I'm going to jail.
Crash out.
Simple. I have settled in my mind I'm going to be imprisoned. I'm okay with that. That is my heart.
Yes, sir.
And as her father, I am her covering. I am responsible for her. And it's hard for me to even articulate, which is surprising. But the pressure of like, there are certain things I don't look at on the news anymore, certain TV shows I don't watch anymore, because they plant ideas in my mind about what could happen to my daughter one day.
Yeah.
God, please don't let this happen to her. All that kind of stuff. And so I would say that is a big pressure. And then there's the emotional pressure, because I am raising a girl. And her interaction and relationship with me will define how she expects to be treated by men.
Yeah.
I'm biased, but my girl is beautiful. She is going to get a lot of attention as she grows older. I know this. And there are already little boys at the daycare who hover around her. I'm tired of it. We get photos of what's happening during the day, and we get the live feed in the classroom. And I'm like, I'm tired of little boys always being around Micah. I'm tired. There's one curly hair, light skinned boy who just finds himself. I'm like, I don't trust him. Anyway.
Right.
Trick. Exactly. I don't trust those tricks.
Away.
So
oh my God.
Don't touch that. Brotherhood is bad. So,
age.
You saw what?
Nothing.
Anyway, all that said, like there's a lot of pressure that I feel like we kind of hold in intention every single day, that I hold intention as her father. And that is why I am constantly at the feet of Jesus, because I feel like I would go insane.
I understand.
Without him.
I understand. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. And yeah.
Similar to Jonathan, you know, I have two boys, 11 and 4, Carter and Kingston. And the pressure that I experience is, well, in general, I want him to be a responsible young man. You know, and as Black men, you have to be twice as good. Well, really, you shouldn't have to be, just even, we're just off the chain already. But it's to stand out, a lot of times you have to present yourself as, so I have to find the balance of not pushing too hard in certain regards. Like I want him to be himself, but it's like, helping him, like with your chores. That's part of you showing your contribution to the house, developing a work ethic within you, things like that. And, finding the balance between that and video games. Like, hey, let's find something to do, stimulate your mind in a different way other than being on video games. And it's the challenge of this age. Technology is everywhere, always vying for their attention. And so I'm always, wanting to, just try to cultivate an environment, to where he's not being pulled into just, absorbing, content, technology, stimulation and things like that. So, and as a Black male, we live in America. I mean, and then we see, the heart of America being, brought to the light yet again, and, I think we came up in a generation, I'm born in 85. So, a couple decades after the heat of the civil rights movement and things like that. So all is, things are getting better, and then Obama's become president, and then you start to see stuff and hear stuff, and, it's just real blatant in your face. And then it's like Trump is like all of the stuff that comes with him. And, and it's like, I'm not worried, but I try to be vigilant and about preparing him. And he's 11, just turned 11, and just preparing him about what it means to be a Black man. There's certain things you can't do. When you go places, you're going to be the only Black boy there, and that's fine. But you don't need to be the one showing out. You don't need to be the one acting like you don't have any sense, because they might can do it, but
you can do it.
Away with it, like they might, and it may be fine. I don't know. Like I came up in Darlington, South Carolina, like Hicktown County, USA. And it's crazy because one year when I went home from college I think I was at the time, but when I crossed over the county line, like I could just feel the thickness of like racist, like these racist undertones and things. Like I could just feel it. And like MacB and places like that where, you can easily get pulled in MacB if you are speeding. It's like a speed trap. I know that, but it's like I was coming back home from Darlington a few weeks ago, and it was 4 a.m. in the morning. I think I was coming back to go to church or whatever. I had to go or whatever. But I did not want to get stopped by a cop in MacB at 4:30 a.m. on my way back to Rock Hill.
That's the absolute
5 below the speed limit. I didn't want to give any reason for any cop because it's like, I just don't want to find myself in a situation doing nothing wrong. But we know there are a lot of stories of Black people doing nothing wrong and end up not here tomorrow. And so I try to, lightly ease him into conversations like that so that he understands we don't need to be fearful, but we just need to be mindful. And so that is the pressure that I experience and trying to help him navigate that. And, he has questions, and, between me and my wife, we really we tag team that, I think, pretty well to help them understand. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we don't want you going down to these people's house down the street because we just don't feel them like that. Like,
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, you can't go play with that white girl, but the two of y'all by yourself, no. Like, you can hang out with the white guy, but not no. Mm-mm. You're about to be middle school, nah.
No.
At your age, like, we just gotta be.
Yep.
So.
I feel you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all said a lot of great things. I think for me, it's the pressures of raising a young black man, Nolan. I've very much heard a lot of similarities in what I was thinking and what Kenton said about that. And just trying to teach him to, like you said, be aware. Don't be fearful, but just be aware that there are people out there that may judge you a certain way because of the color of your skin. When in Nolan, we decided to let him grow dreads, and I didn't have a problem with it, but part of me was a little like, oh my gosh, like are people going to look at him differently now that he has these dreads? Because there's a stigma around dreads or whatever. So far, things seem to be okay. I did hear him say that somebody was like, when you gonna cut your hair? He said somebody said that in school. I was like, who said that? Like, I was ready to I ain't like that. I still want to know who said that though. I do. Because I need to have a conversation with him. I want to have a conversation with him so bad. But I try to just make sure that he was good and that he's comfortable in his skin and he's comfortable with the way his hair looks and that he likes it and all of those things. It seems like he is, so I'm peeling back a little bit, but I'm vigilant. I'm aware that if I have to go to jail, I'll go to jail. But
hey, I'm gonna keep it at a buck. You're right.
Yeah, and like, me being a veteran now, I was gone for about a year, and there was a period of time where I was gone for a few months, and the effect that had on Nolan, that definitely put some added pressure on me because I just feel like I'll never be able to get that year and those few months back and all of that. So, I just try to double down on doing things that he wants to do that I may not feel like doing all the time. And even trying to plan in my mind, like, okay, I know that he's really into technology. So what kind of things can I get him into? Like, I had him in Code Ninjas this last summer and he's been begging to go back there, but Code Ninjas, I need y'all to drop y'all prices a little bit.
Yes.
Because my goodness,
please.
And are there any competitors out there that we can, that we can?
I got one. We'll talk about it afterwards. I found
please,
somebody. I got you, brother.
Please send it my way.
I got you, man. I got you. Yeah.
But anyway, and then with Elena, when I was gone for that year, that was the second year of her life. And when I did come home, like, she was all over me. Like, she didn't want nobody else but daddy, but nobody but daddy. Now that I'm back, I am not the favorite parent. Breland is a favorite parent.
Now, did she tell you?
Her actions.
Her actions and her saying out of her mouth, "Daddy, I don't like you."
Oh my goodness, man, come on, man.
And at times saying, "Daddy, I don't love you."
Man.
So yeah, which it kind of cut a little bit deep. Because I try to be very equal with both of them. Understanding that yes, there's an age gap or whatever. And I talked about this a little before you joined, Kenton, but just letting Nolan know that, hey, the way we treat her has to be different because of the age gap. But at the same time, she does something wrong, she is punished almost equally like Nolan is, because I want Nolan to see that. And I want her to understand that you cannot just do what you want. But my daughter is a lot more bold than my son is.
Well,
and she goes against the grain a lot. Had a lot of issues in school and stuff too. Like, she was trying to take over that little daycare. But grace be unto God, things have been a lot better. because I try to be very consistent. Like if I got a bad report, I ain't gonna lie, we went to the bathroom in school, and we had to talk. We had to come to Jesus meeting right there. And I, I think because of that, I am not the favorite parent anymore. I did teach her though that, hey, I'm always gonna love you no matter what. So she doesn't say, hey, I don't love you anymore, but she did sometimes say, I don't like you right now or whatever. And I'm like, that's fine, but I still love you. And then she started saying too, yeah, I always will love you, Daddy. Now she says that. And I think slowly but surely she's she's starting to understand that I can't just do whatever I want to do. Yeah. And I have to be kind and I have to be respectful, because sometimes a girl will just hit Nolan for no reason. She bullies her brother, man. She bullies her brother. And we have to show that no, just because you're younger, no, we're not going to tolerate that. And Nolan, he's a lot bigger than she is, so he could manhandle her if he wanted to. Yeah. But I appreciate the fact that he tries to be very gentle with her. But yeah, we just have to teach her that, just because you think you can get over it, no, we're not gonna allow that. But I also am, the pressure that I'm feeling is trying to make sure that I'm not too hard on her. Because maybe I try to overcompensate because I was gone. And then my wife is very much more of the nurturing person. And sometimes I might try to overcompensate by saying, okay, I have to be that duality here because Breland is, it's rightfully so. She needs to be that way. I think kids need that duality between the nurture and also, a little bit of enforcement. But with that, Breland still has to be enforcing, and I have to still nurture. I have to hold, I have to kiss, I have to show affection and all those things. And I try to be well-rounded in that, but always going to improve, of course. So that's really the biggest pressure for me. And then just the other things, making sure that the lights are on, that there's food on the table, that there's water, that they understand what gratefulness is, that they understand who God is, the importance even now before they even are old enough to conceptualize and make that decision. Okay, I want to follow Christ. Being that example for them is a big pressure as well. And just showing them what right looks like and all of that. It's a lot of pressure, but I appreciate and respect God for giving this assignment to me in both of their lives. And I just try to do my best, the best that I can, and identify areas where I can improve and improve upon it. And like Jonathan said, like get down on my face and humble myself and be like, all right, God, I was wrong in this. Like, how do I reconcile? How do I resolve this? So,
yeah. I mean, this has all been good because like it's one of them things that, for us, we have wired in ourselves certain things that, like we were talking about earlier, even when we were talking about like losing ourselves in a sense, there's still a lot of things that we do that we know that's us. That's intrinsically just who we are. Facts. And I'm like, it became a thing for me with him. I love wrestling, love it. All right, love it. Can't take it away from me. You know what I'm saying? Like the it's funny. Like it's just one of them. I love. I'm an anime head. I'm comic books. That was my first literature, was Lord of the Rings. Like that was the first book I ever read at 5. Like that was my book, Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. So it's certain things that I like have partaken in that I still like to partake in. That it's like, oh, this is wonderful. And then he walks in the room. I'm like, oh, shoot.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, no, you can't watch this, man. Like wrestling, cats is bleeding and beating each other up. And I'm like, I had to wait.
Not yet.
I just had to wait. I say, not yet, buddy. You ain't daddy. But what's that, daddy? Nothing. It's nothing. You're good. You know what I'm saying? Like you're fine, son. Don't worry about it. But it's like small stuff like that too. But definitely about the social issues and things of that nature. My son had a situation at school this kid, you know, he was younger than him, but the kid was like trying to hit him, you know, all the time. I'm like, my eye, you know, you get that Philip Fry look, you know, you just like sitting in the hall, your eyes just immediately just start closing. You like, where are the parents? And then when we got more information about the house, you know, Holy Spirit began to beat me up because it's like, this ain't what you think it is. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. But I was like, ready to bam. I was like, introduce me to the Father today. We had to have a conversation. Yeah. School principal, can you set this up? Yeah, but it was a situation where, you know, it was something he really enjoyed to do. The kids that he really enjoyed being around them, and I had to take him out. You know, I was like, I'm doing this for me, because if you go back here and this boy hit you again, and I had to stop myself. I was like, the Christian in me is saying, tell my son to not hit this boy because he's younger than him.
Yeah.
But the Trevor in me.
You did it for him too, though, because he needs the daddy home.
The Trevor in me is saying, make this boy remember, remember the name. You know, you know, like make him remember the name, son. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. You know, so I was like, you know, but we had to take him out, you know. But it was like that wasn't never anything we had to worry about. But we didn't really think about the dynamics of other kids, you know, and that's a very big issue in this generation. Is like, I mean, unfortunately, and I'm just called, you can look at the stats for this. I ain't making this up. Statistically speaking, we have like some of the weirdest, most disconnected parents we've ever had. You can look it up in stats. You can look it up in how the kids are learning. You can look it up in how the kids are learning how to read and write, and how that's all the way down. You know, math all the way down. There's a lot of disconnection, and you're putting your child in that environment with kids that are severely disconnected. Once again, never really had a problem with that prior, but now I'm like, man, I gotta think about that. Like, I gotta think about where I'm gonna send my son to go and learn. You know, so we didn't put him in public school because of that. You know, everybody's all private school the same. I'm like, I said, but the difference is I'm paying. So I get to have a conversation. I can't have a conversation in public school because public school is being paid by somebody else. So I was like, if I'm paying you, you need to listen to me. And you're gonna talk to me about what's going on. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but that was something that, once again, we weren't even processing that until it really came. I was like, man, that's some pressure. You know, making sure he has proper education, making sure he has what he needs to become a productive, you know, young man. And you know, like I said, because he's black, you know, like can't play like that. You know, back up a little bit. You can't do that either. Like you know, just but the balance has been to tell them more of the do's than the can'ts. Because one of the issues that you probably all can attest to, you know, growing up in the 90s, we got a lot of can'ts. Not a whole lot of do's. And because of that, there are mental blocks in our brain that we are still overcoming now. I'm still even speaking for myself. I'm still overcoming stuff that I was like, why the world is this here? You don't do this for a long time, and now you can do, but you've already been programmed to not do because of the fear of that, you know. So, not like you were saying earlier, not putting fear in your child about stuff, but like showing them possibility. But okay, we're gonna close this door, but there's 7 of the doors open, you know, rather than we're gonna close this door, we're gonna sit in this room. You know, so you know, that being a thing. So yeah, but I mean, this is great. Like what you guys put in for pressure. So this is the one that I know y'all gonna have fun with. You know, how you've been able to navigate your child's personality?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Kenton, the floor is yours, brother.
My challenge with that is, you know, he has a lot of great ideas, and sometimes, you know, Carter's very impulsive, so he wants to get those ideas out. things like that, and he wants to talk about them, and sometimes it's not always the opportune time to talk. So I'm trying to learn how to be patient in my tone and approach it. Like when we're getting ready in the morning, it's like he rides with his mom to school. He goes to the school where she works, and they got to leave on time. Like that is priority.
Yeah.
I want to hear your story. I really do. But once we get in the car, you can call me and then you can tell me, because talking is not going to slow you down in the car because you're in the car rolling towards the school. Here, you're going to stand in one spot and talk and not get ready. So that's a little bit of kind of about personality, full of ideas, loves to share. He loves the Lord. I'll tell y'all a quick story. Y'all might have seen it on Facebook, but I'll say it again anyway. The teacher asked Carter, if they were doing vocabulary, and she said, use contaminate in a sentence. He said, well, when Adam and Eve sinned in the garden, they contaminated the whole world. So
no.
That boy got a word in his soul, man.
And then when Hurricane Helene came, he was talking about something about how the waters washed out the foundation. Talking about it's like the house that was built on the sand. It's like, we need to build a house on the rock. It's like on Christ, the solid rock I stand. And the teacher was tripped out. So he is, he loves church. He loves the Lord. So and so just me being patient with those things, like pouting and things like that, which my mom actually said that I did. So again, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree from some things. So I'm learning to be patient with that and really recognize my triggers, because sometimes you can pop off, and it's like, just like we teach them how to breathe and take a moment. I need to exercise that as well. So that's something I'm working on. My youngest, who just opened the door, by the way.
Hey, Kingston.
Hey, Kingston.
Perfect time.
What's up, buddy?
What's up?
No touching. All right, go. I'll be out after a while.
I didn't want to be here.
Huh?
I don't want to be here.
Okay. We'll get wait in. Close the door.
We're getting a case study right now.
Right.
Yeah. My kids are with their grandma.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say
they're not. I know one of them would have barged in if they were here.
Strong-willed, full of personality. He's a hand. And so he's kind of getting now within the last year where he's kind of testing that, that cuteness and pushing buttons. And I'll be popping tail.
Amen.
With the balance, but anyway, that's kind of him in a nutshell. Like hilarious. He says we started making a list or note in our phone when especially when he says stuff like, it's just hilarious. But just learning to really allow them to be themselves and try to gently redirect and help frame the situation or things that they need to do in a way that's not harmful. I was looking at a scripture. It was just saying, don't provoke your children to wrath. And then there was another thing about your approach to them so that you don't discourage them.
Absolutely.
And so that one I hadn't read before. I was looking at a couple fatherhood scriptures, but that one was like, I don't want to discourage them. I want them to have not, live in their light and in their spirit, but just kind of help frame them so that, we just, have those proper guardrails in place. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think for me, one way I've been able to help to navigate my kids' personalities is thinking about my own childhood and just thinking about the times where I felt unheard, silenced, misunderstood, and things like that. Because I think, I don't know, maybe this is indicative of growing up in the 90s or whatever. Sometimes you might have certain aspirations or things that you enjoy, and just dealing with parents or other adults, just they don't like it. So in their mind, it's like you shouldn't be doing it either. And it's not innate anything evil or anything that's maybe it's not like age inappropriate or anything. It's just something that they don't like, so they don't think that you should do it. There's certain things that Nolan likes, and just little sayings that he says and stuff like that I cannot stand. I hate it. But I just think about those times where I wanted to be free and wanted to, say things or do things, and how I felt at times where I couldn't do those things. I don't want him to feel that way. I'm now, if he asked me, he's like, "Daddy, you like this song?" And Elena asked me to, I'll be honest with him and say, "I don't," but that's okay. If you like it, you can play your little song, baby. There ain't no curse words in it. It's not demonic or anything. It's fine. Listen to your little song or whatever. I can't stand it, but go ahead and listen to it. So I think that's really helped me out. It's just the inner child in me wanting my children to experience and be free and be to be children. And like Kenton said, though, I think it's very important to help frame it though for them, and just ensure that they're thriving in a way that that's just best for them, and not dimming their light. All those great things that you said, Kenton, I agree 100%. And a lot of what you said was actually confirmation for me, because there's something I've been thinking about recently where I need to be careful. My wife and I, we need to be careful about how we approach certain things that our kids do. So thank you for that, because now I'm gonna have a conversation with Breland about some things. So yeah.
Well, my child's personality is fairly new, so it's emerging now. Getting louder and louder and louder. It's a language explosion, and I think we are now realizing the extent of that sponge.
Man,
Micah is beginning to repeat things she hears because she has words now, and it's amazing, and I love that. I love to hear her talk, but she has picked up on certain things, and so we're very vigilant about certain things we say. Like, for instance, it's something as simple as saying eat. Like, we don't say eat if it's not time to eat, because if we say eat and there's no food presented to Micah within the next 3 minutes, a tantrum. So we avoid eat unless it's time to eat.
Okay.
Because her brain is still developing, so context is still building for her, and all these kinds of things. And so I will say, like, Yvonne and I just had a conversation this morning after I dropped Micah off to daycare. I was describing kind of it's not an interaction really, but how Micah responded to another child whose mother was bringing her in, and the child was crying and upset, and Micah kind of almost mimicked some of that behavior after having been very happy and like cheerful. And we were just talking about like how she, a lot like her mom, is a feeler. Like, we can already see like she's gonna be pathetic. And I think where we are now is mostly about preparation for what may come. Again, Micah's personality is new. We're learning it. She's learning it. So navigating is kind of, I wouldn't say it's too challenging at the moment. It's just like everything is new and she's doing new things all the time. And we just think it's cute. So everything right now is just cute. So temper tantrums. Temper tantrums are not cute.
They're not.
Because she's dramatic. I mean, she's a baby, so yes, she's dramatic. She throws hands, and so
that type of dramatic. Okay,
Micah's that type of dramatic.
Gotcha.
Micah's a strong baby. Y'all haven't been hit by my child, but
I'm not trying to be hit by your child.
Micah is strong. And it's like, sometimes I'm like, why did that hurt? Why did that I'm like, I don't like that.
The blood of your ancestors, boy.
The toddler strength hits different. It really does.
G-force. It's like they have that.
Yeah,
it's that G-force and so right now it's just, I think we're starting to navigate discipline. Because when she does things like that, it's like, okay, no, we don't do that. Nice hands, soft hands, like gentle, like we're reinforcing those behaviors. We are trying not to be so adamant about the no's, but more about the redirection. Like, so instead of doing this, this is what you're supposed to do, or this is how we handle this. Mm-hmm. When you're upset, you don't have to throw your milk on the floor. In fact, you can keep it there, but you can still express frustration. But like, I mean, obviously we're not talking like that because she's a baby.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
But it's like, those are the concepts. And so that's kind of where we are right now. But I do think some of the early signs that we've seen is that, Micah's probably going to be deeply compassionate and empathetic, which is wonderful, but also something that will have to be managed because he'll be taking on the emotions of others and probably allowing it to affect her. She's also very cautious, which I love. And Yvonne and I were talking about this yesterday. Neither of us feels pressed to change that at all. Micah doesn't like anybody. She doesn't go there.
That's a good thing.
People are like, hey, you want to come? And Micah's like, no. And I'm like, that's right. That's absolutely right. No one has the right to touch you if you don't want to be touched.
That's right.
We're going to keep that same energy.
That's right.
Amen.
Your adolescence and adulthood. No one touches you if you don't want to be touched. So
that's right.
It's just early signs and figuring out how to foster and help her manage as she grows, basically.
Wonderful. Yeah. They say so my son, he's 7, so he all type of personality, and his daddy is a personality well. So so it's like he like I told you, like day one, breaking out the swaddle. That was like I was like
freedom fighter.
I said, you know what? This boy gonna be different. Then when it came time to walk, I was like, well, crawl. I got videos that I just like play back now and just crack up. But at the time I'm mad frustrated. We'd be like live on his stomach, and he just lay there and just cry. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You strong enough to literally just do something. He's like, I don't feel it. He's like, I'm not doing this. It wasn't until like maybe his 5th, 6th month that he would just pull himself because he was like, I'm not crawling. I don't crawl. So and then when it's time to walk, he was like pulling up and just start walking. I'm like, what the world? So he skipped he skipped crawling. He was like, who crawls? No, I don't crawl. So I was like, the whole time my wife, she's looking at me, she's like, I'm like, don't look at me. I'm like, I crawled, I actually crawled. You can ask my mama. I have pictures of me crawling. I was like, this is different. So, and now, that he's taking, talking, he can reason, he has a wonderful gift of leadership. It's so weird to watch, man. I'm like, how you this good at being a leader? It's like naturally innate in him. He's like, he can, when he's at school, we were terrified, but when we first went, because, we kept him out because of COVID and we homeschooled him for his first year. So his kindergarten year, we homeschooled him. And he did wonderful, but we was praying about the social part. We're like, yo, he's the only child during COVID. This is a mess. Even church community wise, everything's a mess. Worldwide, it's a mess. Yeah. And it was time for him to go into like first grade, and I was like, and my wife was stressing. She was like, is he gonna be okay with these people? And I'm like, I said, well, if any indications show so far that this is the kid that skipped crawling, I think he might be okay. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So he like got into school, he would literally have anxiety attacks. And that was one of the things we learned about our son, is that he has anxiety at a young age. And I was like, Brandon was almost in a wreck, and the car came dreadfully close to his side. Lord kept him. But it's burned in his memory. So for a while, I remember picking him up from his own grandmother's house, coming off work, picking him up, and I was driving on the same road, and he's like, just start crying. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, my stomach hurt. I'm like, what your stomach hurt for? I'm like thinking, bro, did you eat? And he's like hyperventilating. I'm like, what the world's going on here? I'm like, you like 5, 6, what the world are you doing? And then I had to talk. Brandy like broke it down to me, and I was like, baby, I think he literally is having a panic attack. I had to talk him through that, and I bless God that he allowed me to deal with that first. I was 2016. I was the hard man, the unbreakable. I was like, I'm unbreakable. You can't break me. And then the Lord threw a perfectly good stone directly into an Achilles heel, and I was broken. And I had panic attacks. The whole year 2016, it was either at least 2 or 3 times a week. And I had to, and I couldn't pray it away. I was like, Lord, just take it away. And it's like, you want to suffer, boy. So I suffered with it. I suffered with it that entire year. He took it away from me in 2018. Like that feeling, he really relieved me of that. So I looked at my son and I was like, I literally suffered that so I could help you out. That was something that I had to deal with before you got here, so that I could have compassion as a man and look at you as my son and like just hold you, and
Wow.
and I like that was just something I had to process, like with the, our children's personality are sometimes just like that they're like pieces of ours, magnified in a different way. But now, that the anxiety, he still gets a little anxious when he has to do something, but then it's time to go. Boy's like a superstar. I'm like, he'll be like, Daddy, I feel nervous. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to school. I'm like, you take your behind to school. I'm like sling, like hit the temperature gauge, sling. See that number? It's green, buddy. And you gotta go to school, man. You know what I'm saying? like you gotta go to school, buddy. So but he'll go through the program and he's a rock star. And he and then the kids just rally around him. And I was like, wow, like I never really had that as a kid. As a kid, I was the pariah. So I was like, this is a completely different arena that a pariah is raising a leader. That's a part of my life and dealing with his personality in that particular regard. But it's very interesting to see him work that out. He has a lot of demands, more than I ever did. And then I talked to my mom and she was like, no, you did. He is fewer than you. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. So, what I'm saying, it's always good to talk to your parent about stuff. And she's like, you did that too. I'm like, oh, I just don't remember. But yeah, just be humble. Just like, you did the same thing. I'm like, oh, my bad. Sorry. I thought I was free of this. But he, he'll tell you what he wants. And he's not lying to you. Like, this is what I want. I'm like, really? That's it? I'm like, okay. So just having that, and raising that right where he has to learn that humility to match with that, so he can take that further. Is one of the things. So we're gonna do something different. We ain't gonna do all these questions tonight. We're gonna schedule another one. We're gonna do one more.
That's a good idea. I'm struggling.
I looked at us. I said, you know what? We're gonna have to do a part 2 because I can see all us start yawning. I was like, yo, look, man, you know what I'm saying? Life start lifing. You know what I'm saying?
They life's real hard.
Yeah. What you say, kid?
I'm up at like 3, 4 in the morning, so it's like
around
9.
We need to put you to bed, bro. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Put you to bed. So like I got a garden. You know what I'm saying? It's a start. It's a start now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm ready. But we're gonna do one last question, and then we'll schedule another time, and we'll come back and do the rest of them again.
Do you mind if I add something to this one?
Absolutely. Quick? Go ahead, bro. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I wanted to talk about Elena a little bit. Elena, for like 6 or 7 months, hated school, did not want to go to school, cried every single time she went to the classroom, every single day. And I would be like, baby, we just did this yesterday. We did this the day before. Like, why are you like, what's going to happen, but I don't want to go to school. I'm saying this to say, to encourage any father that's listening and everything, just acknowledge the fact that they feel that way.
Yeah.
And just be consistent. And it took months, but she was late. She came to the bed. Sometimes she'll come to bed with us, or whatever, and we'll let her in as long as she stays asleep. If she don't, then Daddy will pick her up and take her right back to her room and be like, "Go to bed. Do not come back out unless you got to poop or you hurt or something." That's the conversation I have with her. But I'm very. What's that?
I said, I don't like you, Daddy.
We started to get more contact,
But now, though, she's like, when I tell her that, she's like, okay. Because she know, because I've been consistent with it. I have not wavered. I was loving, and I try to acknowledge, hey, I know you feel this way, but this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's an important model to have. Acknowledge it, but just be direct and say, I understand you feel this way, but this is what's going to happen. And I think over time, now she says, okay, she acquiesced. And one day when she was laying up in bed with me, in the morning, she was like, Daddy, I like school. I like school. And that, I don't know why that just made my heart melt when she said that, but it just showed that, like, just being consistent and but acknowledging, but being consistent and being direct, it really paid off in the end. And now when I drop her off to school, she's not having a problem. I took her to school the other day, and I came in the class to drop something off, and she was like, Daddy, why are you still here? So listen, just a few weeks ago, that was not the case. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Like my son, like told he was having anxiety, crying, whatever. And they start doing this thing at the school, which I thought it's genius. Whoever came up with it in the school, I was like, you guys are geniuses. They took a representative from each grade that's higher than the kids that are getting out of the car, and they would have them help them get their stuff out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that seems real, I'm like, no, this is powerful because this is a kid. This ain't an adult helping them. This is another child.
Right.
And it toughened him up a little bit because now he see a little girl, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? She come into the car to help him with his bag, and he's like, he got too much man in him. He's like, I got my own bag. What are you talking about? So after a while, he just start putting the bag on quick. You know what I'm saying? So he get in the car, he got his bag on, and then on top of that, there are kids that have already been let in that are going into the school, and I mean, my wife, she normally takes them because she's just on her way, and I'm usually going in opposite. But whenever I take them, it's the funniest thing to watch. Is you just hear, hey, it's like a reverberate, and he's like, hand in the sky, and I'm like, all right, son, I love you, and he's like, you don't exist no more. What are you talking about? It's my time.
Right.
What I'm saying? It's like, it's my time now. I'm like, what happened? And my wife, she's like, he just leaves. I'm like, so yeah, but it's real talk. So like I said, last question, okay? All right. What lessons have you learned as a father that opens your understanding to God? I think that's a good way of breaking this last bit. So process that, like what things have become a little bit more crystal to you about God's attributes after becoming a father?
God is patient. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned. Because I really thought about that one day when I was just driving or whatever, like the amount of patience that I have to have with my children. I love them so much, unconditionally. I don't think that there's a thing that they can do that would break my love for them. I might not like them, but I'm always going to love my children. I do like them too, but there may be pockets of moments where I don't like them for a moment. But but just like God is faithful and dependable and trustworthy, I try to have those attributes with my children as well. And those times where I'm angry with God because I dealt with that these last few months. There have been times where I was angry with God, like, why am I in this position? Why you put me in here? And like, I've always been humble. Like, why I need more humbleness or whatever. But listen, no matter how humble you think you are, God will show you parts of you that still need some help and need some, work with humility. And just being a father to my children, like that's been mirrored too with my relationship with God and my relationship with my children. So yeah, patience, I think is the one of the biggest things that I've learned.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of that. Really, a lot of that was the patience piece, and just when we commune in fellowship with God, and God shows us things, and He, provides for us, and He does things for us, and He shows us that just, He's the greatest example of how we should be towards our children. So might be flipping it kind of around a little bit, but just the more I draw closer to God and I recognize how good he's been to me, that encourages me to make sure that I'm good and, like you say, and patient with my children, that I make them feel like royalty, that they matter, that they're important. And so I just try to bestow that upon my kids, because God is the ultimate example of a great father. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I can kind of pick up from there. I would say becoming a father has unlocked another level of my understanding in regards to the depth of God's love and sacrifice. How love and sacrifice are just so deeply intertwined. How it's not just, of course we've known this for a long time. It's not a bunch of feelings or emotions and stuff, but the emotionality of love is very popular, right? It's easy. In a lot of ways. But with your, like, for myself, with my daughter, yes, there's a lot of emotion involved, but the most demonstrative way that I think model my love for her is in action. And that action is typically never for my benefit. It's always for her, right? And I think that has really just deepened my understanding of what it like being a father is, laying your life down constantly.
Absolutely.
And you are never done laying your life down.
Absolutely.
In the same way, Christ did not stop laying his life down until the work of Calvary was finished. And that it moves me in such a different way, because I feel like as a husband and now as a father, I can never step into his shoes. I can never come close. But I understand it more in a way that I didn't understand it before. Like, I understood it enough to be saved, of course, and enough to develop intimacy and have a love relationship with God. But now I'm like, I get it. Like, I get it a lot more now, because I feel it in a different way, and it shows up in a different way, and I embody it in a different way. And so I think fatherhood has just definitely just unlocked that for me even more. And it is awe-inspiring and humbling and sobering and terrifying.
I mean, which I think all those emotions are proper, because for me, it's, there are two words that are usually used to explain how God does stuff for us. He's an example and he's an ensample, so example being, there's a pattern that you can follow. Ensample is like an indention that reminds you that this person was here, and I think about that a lot, going from OT to the NT. He was setting monuments and reminding them to remember stuff, and I think about that a lot, especially, with we're all students of the game. We love history, we like things of that nature, and we know that even when we were kids, nobody was teaching real history. They just look. This is something that's not going to be fixed, people. This is, you have to know it for yourself and teach it to your children. But knowing how to make an example of yourself to do a particular thing, and then also putting something in the ground that they can remember. God was quoted, and then they will know, far more times than anything you can find in the Old Testament, is that do not fear, and then they will know. Those are ensamples in the scriptures. Like they're just in there everywhere. They're stamped around everywhere. And when I'm dealing with my son, he, you're a superhero in a sense, to your child. You may not think that way, but when that kid needs something, who are they looking to? They're looking to you. They may like a person on TV, but when they're hurt, they're not going to be screaming Power Ranger Red. They're screaming mama, or they're screaming daddy. And, like having that privilege of being being there to be able to scoop them up and be that example and example for him in that moment. You know, like where he can see that daddy loves him. You know, he was having issues with his stomach, gets gassy, you know. He want to eat all them snacks, feel me? And I'm like, you ain't supposed to be eating them snacks. And he, you know, go to his grandma's house and, you know, he do his own thing, you know, with his grandma, you know. So y'all know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
yeah, you know, that's a whole nother podcast, you know, like grandmothers gotta fall in line, you know. You know, like you just come, I know you the grandma, but just and she's like, I'm the authority. I'm like, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like he get home and he's like, I don't feel good, my stomach hurt, and like he crawls on to me, and you know, he just wants daddy in that moment. You know, I mean that's a beautiful feeling. You know, like I can honestly say for myself, I never had that. You know, when I was a kid, you know, I had to crawl up on a cold bed if something was wrong with me. That was, you know, like that's no shade towards my mama. I didn't have my father. You know, my stepfather was a doer. Like we would talk about at the very beginning, he was a worker. He worked, work. He worked. You know what I'm saying? So if something was really wrong, you know, I just went in my room. You know, so to be that for him when he like has a daddy that like is not like it's not the upbringing that my son he doesn't have to experience what I experienced because of the way that the Lord has guided us to here, and you being able to be that example for that for your child. You know, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of, and it shows you how much God loves you in the moment. You know, how he knows exactly what you need in that moment, that example that you need to go forward, that reminder in the dirt that you like, that he's like, I'm really here. And you like, oh, you are here versus you just feeling like you all alone. You know, I'm beginning to understand that better, you know, and with the long suffering joint y'all talking about, you know, y'all know what the Hebrew for long suffering is, like what it means.
What does it mean?
Long of nose. Now we all had to change diapers. You know, it's terrible. You know, it's filthy. And did everybody want to quit?
Yes.
I wanted to quit. I was like, yo, you ain't even a whole human yet. You filthy. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like, yo, what? We just only gave you this. You only having milk, yo. What is this? You know, but you dealt with the smell.
Right.
Because you loved them.
Mm-hmm.
That's God.
Mm-hmm.
He's long of nose. He's like, the smell, it stinks, but it doesn't stink enough to make me leave you. It doesn't stink to make me want to get away from you. You know, so when he says long suffering, he's literally saying that he's long of nose because he can deal with your stench. So, you know what I'm saying? So just keep that. You know what I'm saying? That's a lesson from God that he's like, I can deal with your filth because I gave you my son too. You know, and he can deal with your filth. You know, so yes, it's a beautiful situation. But brothers, if y'all got anything else y'all want to add before we close out for part one, we might have some more people on part two. Let's see what happens. But talk to me.
I'm good. This has been good. It's been good chopping up with y'all here and everybody's experience, and got a lot of wisdom from everybody. So thank y'all. I appreciate
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for jumping on, bro. I know you was busy, man. You know what I'm saying? So
it's been a busy, but it's been good. It's been I bless God.
Amen. Yes, sir. Anything for you on Trail and John? Yo, Jonathan, y'all straight?
I echo what Kenton said. You know, this has been therapeutic, and it just kind of makes me, you know, reframe. I kind of got some fresh perspective, or renewed perspective from this conversation. So I appreciate the invitation to join. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for coming, brother.
For sure.
John, you good?
I'm good. I echo what Kenton and Latrell have said. This has been great. I look forward to part two.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up, and we will I'm gonna see if I can get some more folks. I'm just trying to keep it to the younger guys for this one. We'll do something for the other guys later, but you know, there needs to be a fresh perspective on this that people can see. So thank you guys for listening. This is Straight BTM BPE. This is a part of Tabernacle Praise Church International. You can look us up on YouTube. We're on TOPCI on YouTube. You type that in, you'll find us. And we'll have more things coming up in the future. So stay tuned, subscribe and like, and we appreciate you. God bless you.